Hallo allesammen, välkommen tillbaka. It's good to see you here once again. Today I'm going to be going over something that's pretty important in Norway, and that is weather. The weather is an ever-changing thing here, pretty much everywhere, of course, but here it seems like it changes minute to minute at times. Right now it's nice and sunny out, but I can see in the distance that there's some pretty dark thunderclouds starting to build up, and it's been pretty much that way a lot in the last month or so. Lots of thunderstorms come through, and it'll be nice and crystal clear. I mean, like literally no clouds as far as you can see, although it's not very far because I'm kind of surrounded by mountains or hills here. But it'll be nice and crystal clear, just only blue sky, and then 20 minutes later or so, start seeing the darkness come in, a little bit of wind picks up, and next thing you know, it is pouring rain and there's thunder. I haven't seen any lightning yet, so it's always thunder in the distance, but it echoes throughout the way the fjord is here. It gets pretty loud and it just seems to go and go. It's probably one lightning strike and causing the thunder, but it just echoes all over the place, so it seems like it's a like a 2-minute long thunder, but I'm exaggerating, but it's pretty long. Anyways, so weather changes quite often here, and because of that, Norwegians love to talk about the weather. It's a little bit more than just this kind of standard average small talk that most people do, or like I'm used to from the United States. If you don't have anything quick to talk about, the weather is a great thing. Weather, sports, or news, really. Which, that's typical, but here it's a little bit more. So weather is a very often spoken of subject, or picked subject, yeah. Anyways, so I figure I'd give you some weather words. Now, there's quite a bit, just like in any other language, there's a lot that you can use to explain weather. You can go into extreme details and whatnot, so I'm just going to go over a few stuff. I'm not going to go over every single little detail because it's forever. But Norwegians do have a lot to talk about when it comes to weather. So there's 3 main things, as you probably already know. You have temperature, that's what we feel and what it's like outside. The sky conditions, so if it's clear or cloudy, and the wind. So those are the 3 main parts of weather that we'll mostly talk about. So I'll start with the easy one, which is temperature. Temperature is described in 2 ways, either the way you feel or literally, so by temperature as in what degree it is. In Norway, like most parts around the world now, we use Celsius and not Fahrenheit. I'm used to Fahrenheit being from the US, and it took a little while to get used to, but now that I'm using it, it's pretty simple. Not having an issue anymore, really. Maybe with converting. So anyways, so if you want to start off with just saying literally what the temperature is, say it's 10 degrees out, all you have to do is say 10 grader. Det är 10 grader. It's 10 degrees. It's assumed Celsius because we use that system, so you don't have to say Celsius. The other way would be how you feel, and that would be either varmt or kaldt. And for kaldt, it's just cold, and it can be very cold or slightly cold, but cold is cold, But with varmt is actually hot, but it's also used to describe warm. So that's, for me, the easiest way to memorize it. Varmt sounds like warm, and that's just how I remembered it. Same thing with cold, kaldt. So those are pretty easy. Now, with either one of those, you can do veldig, which is very, or lit, or any kind of adjective to describe the intensity of it, whether it's very or slightly or whatever it may be. So that's why I say temperature, pretty simple, easy to get with. The next one is going to be a little bit more difficult, but somehow I was able to catch on with it pretty quickly, and that is what's called vann I lufta, and that literally translates as water in the air. Lufta is air. And if you don't know already, that means the clouds, or not clouds, could be also humidity, but in air, it's not just this invisible thing that we're here. There is a lot of moisture in the air, and depending on temperatures and conditions, they'll turn into clouds, or it'll turn into steam, or it'll do nothing and just be a nice blue sky. So the vann I lufta is sky conditions, basically, and we have clouds, and to say clouds, that's skyet. To to say that it's overcast, then that's called overskyet. So that's pretty simple, right? Over. If it's clear, nice blue sky, then that's klart. If it's partly cloudy, so it's a little bit clear and a little bit cloudy, then you could say it's delvis skyet. That's partly cloudy. And I guess rain. Rain is regn. And that's pretty easy for me, but if you do notice there's a G in there, but the G is almost not pronounced, so it sounds very similar to the English word rain. You kind of do like a soft in that word there. If it's pouring down rain, which when there's thunderstorms here it does, that would be pøsregn. That's that. If it's light rain, littregn, or yr. There is, what else we got? Oh, then that pretty much takes us over to the wind. And so with wind, again, there's so many forms of wind, from either it being a light breeze to a devastating hurricane wind. And I guess, I have most of them written here. I'll give you 4 of them. So I'll start with the very light, nice, comfy wind, and that'll be a bris. Pretty simple because it's almost the same. Actually, it's pretty close to the same as the way you say it too, but slightly different spelling. But bris, breeze, bris. That's a light wind, litt vind. Kuling. Kuling is a slightly more powerful wind, and that's if you're familiar with the ocean coastline or maybe in a lake area, and you get the wind that's allowing the waves to start happening, and you get that little waves are coming up, and it's got the white water, so it's almost like the waves cresting. It's got that kind of white foamy look on the top. That's typically the power of wind that they call kuling. And so I think from what the lessons are, one of the teachers was telling us, is that the kuling is also a way to describe the action of the waves, all over the ocean. It's got a nice, pretty good wind going, and it's causing that waves to come up. And you describe that whole action as kuling. And then you get into a storm. And that's where the wind is really picking up, and it's a storm is a storm. So you know what the storm is. Storm also in Norwegian. So that's pretty much, they come up and they call it a farlig wind, farlig vind, and it's getting a little dangerous. And then you get into the wind you don't want to ever have to experience, and they call that orkan, and that is devastating wind. That's where rooftops are being blown off and trees are broken, and like I said, you don't want to be in those winds. And pretty much that's like hurricane, typhoon winds. So yeah, that's the stuff you want to stay away from. So that's pretty much the basics of it all. You use things in sentences or give a couple other descriptions. Like for instance, for a clear sky, instead of just saying it's klart outside, clear, you could say Sola skinner, which means that the sun is shining. You could say det varmt, it's warm. If you have, in the wintertime, when it's snowing, snow is snö. You can say det snør, and that's it, it's snowing. When it's windy, you can say det blåser, which it's windy. It's blowing, is what it technically means, I believe. You can also say, instead of saying that it's overcast, you could say det grått ute. And it's gray out. For rain, det regner, which is it's raining, or det vått, it's wet. So there's your weathery words for today. Hopefully I didn't have too much craziness and back and forth and all of that. I'm trying to gather my thoughts into one, and I take bad notes, and so the way you hear me talking, jumping all over the place, that's me trying to organize my notes as I'm speaking here. I probably should do better with that, but that's a little bit different. Anyways, hopefully this has been an informative lesson. Weather is the key here. It is a very commonly spoken about subject, and so it's probably a good thing to learn. And hopefully that was helpful for you. In the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, want to say anything to me, leave them down below. That nice little comment section is opened up to anybody. And give me a thumbs up while you're down there if you like what I'm doing here for you. And don't forget to check in the descriptions. If you haven't noticed any of my previous descriptions, I do try to make a little vocabulary list for you. So that's there for you also to study in case you didn't quite hear what I'm saying or didn't want to have to pause and get the words off the side here. And yeah, till next time, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And ha det bra!